again. It's 28 years. Can you believe it's that long? Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest. They just keep flying by, and it gets bigger and better every time. Welcome to your Backstage Pass here on the People Chronicles. My name is Jo Painter, and this show is made possible by the Berks Arts Council. And if you've been following over the years, and I know many of you have, you've met Erich Cawalla, right? Heard the story?
Yes, absolutely.
And Will Rapp. And this year we thought we'd put the two together, and it wasn't really
Will,
my
how are you?
idea.
Just fine.
Nice to meet
Erich.
you.
Oh, you're kidding? You guys didn't meet yet?
We actually, the first time I did a Pops special guest was at City Park, and Will was the conductor that night. So that would have been 2005 or 4 or
Yes.
something.
We have a history.
You guested with the Pops already.
Yes.
I did
this
not
will be
know
my fourth
that.
time, I think. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always wonder, and I should do that properly. You were the conductor of the Reading Pops for how many years now?
Right. Since 2000, I've been involved in a conducting capacity.
Wow. And you have over 30 years of published authorship under your belt? You do
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of
I've had an
reviews and
opportunity
articles
with
and
writing texts and arranging.
and education, Kutztown, Millersville,
Yes,
Catholic University, I think.
Yes. You got that all right.
I'm telling you, every once in a while I get it right. And Erich, you know, I feel like
That's Maestro right there.
it is Maestro.
Do you go by Maestro?
I do not.
No?
I do
Conductor.
Not. It's Will.
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 To Will. I like
Will.
that. I like that.
I'll call you Maestret.
Maestret.
Yeah.
I want it. Oh. Erich,
Yes.
I feel like I've just watched your career blossom.
Well, I'm trying. I mean, I just keep trying to do stuff that is, unique to what I do. And I started the Uptown Band back in 2005.
Do you remember being on the show with me?
Yeah.
In 2005.
Somewhere
it was
around
your
there.
first debut with the Jazz Fest?
Something like that. That's where we debuted back at the old Casa Grande 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And still doing that. That's what I do for a living. I'm also an entertainment agent, and I privately teach as well. But I always had this feel that I wanted to do Great American Songbook type of songs, solo myself, and I'm finally doing that. I'm going to be putting out a Great American Songbook album in the style of Michael Bublé and Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra in about 6 months. So that'll be about 2 months.
Is that going to be the flavor of your show? Because you're with the Reading Pops, it's going to
Yep.
be Great American Songbook.
Yep, it's going to be myself,
Wow.
Benny Sims, my producer, who obviously you know with the Groove Masters, and then Steve Rudolph, who is a fabulous piano player from Harrisburg, and Mr. Bill Tessar, a drummer from the area now, who used to live in New York and did a lot of studio recordings up there. But what we're doing is, my CD is going to feature songs like Have You Met Miss Jones, All My Tomorrows, Frank Sinatra, Ooh Baby Baby, Smokey Robinson. And they're all original arrangements from my arranger, Dave DePalma, who used to be my saxophone teacher as well. And he has arranged all of these songs for the CD, and now what he is doing is he is taking them and making them fit the Reading Pops. So it's going to be really, really unique, because they're our own arrangements that are going to be set to Will and the Reading Pops. So it'll be really neat.
There's a lot of moving parts, if you will,
A lot.
in this story.
Yes.
So in this case, where it's Dave DePalma's arrangements,
Yep.
So it's original arrangements, but classic music, Great
Well,
American
yep.
Songbook. Who's taking the lead? Do you take the lead as the conductor, or do you take the lead as the quartet?
We don't know yet.
I mean, there's got to be somebody
We'll find
has
out,
to lead
right?
in that dance, right?
Sure. But in situations like that, my role as a conductor really is to be accompanimental. And that is, I accompany the soloist. It's up to me to keep the orchestra with the soloist. In this case, with the combo that's going to be up front.
So then you take the lead, so to speak. You know, you're
yeah.
following. Somebody's following somebody.
Well, and it's Dave's arrangements, and obviously with me putting them on my CD, I know where things are supposed to be and what it's supposed to be. What Dave is basically doing is, if you think about, what I like to think about it is like a 2-on-2 basketball game. That's basically like what the CD is, and now what Dave is doing is making it a 5-on-5 basketball game, because the CD is more of a smaller. It's a 17-piece big band with strings, and some of the songs don't have that, but what Dave is doing is just supplementing everything that he's already written.
You're going full court.
Yeah,
Full court,
there'll be
baby.
lush arrangements. Absolutely.
Lush. Really, really lush.
I think it's interesting that we're talking about the Great American Soundbook.
Yeah.
Or Songbook, excuse me, because we're also talking about Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest. And jazz, it conjures up so many different feelings, different tones, different styles.
Yep.
And that having been said, because you'd be surprised how many people travel all over the country to come to Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest, yet there's still a fair amount of people who've never, they know it, they've heard it, but they didn't take the time, get a ticket, and go from this area. And often there's a preconceived notion, well, that's jazz, and I'm not a fan of that. And so I thought this year we would ask all of our guests a little bit about jazz. Same questions, and see what kind of answers comes up. So who would like to go first?
You have these questions memorized, I presume.
You know, it's really a journey, if you will. Do you want me to take notes? No, I do. They're all right here in my head.
I see nothing here. So
That's a little. Do
You
you know
don't have
why
it
I did
written
that?
under here, do you?
No, do you know
Okay,
why I did that?
sure.
Because if I mess up, you'll never know.
That's true. I think we should
My
watch.
little secret.
We should watch every other interview and make sure.
See if we
that
get the
they're
same five.
See
exact
if you get the same ones
five.
in the same order. All right, let me
Yes.
see if I don't mess this up. Jazz.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you?
Jazz means to me, I'll go first since we
That's great.
we drew straws at the beginning, so we'll go first. Jazz to me just means the ability to be able to, obviously it takes years and years of playing, but jazz to me is being able to let yourself out of your zone. Close your eyes. I talked to Gerald Veasley about this once, and I said to him, Gerald, when you play jazz, what do you do to be able to take it from here to there? And I was a young guy, I was like 25, and he says what you have to do is you have to be able to make your practice space your performance space, and vice versa. And a lot of that is just closing your eyes and feeling what you feel. And that's what's so great about jazz, is that you get to play it, you get to feel it. Whether I'm singing a Frank Sinatra tune, I can do different inflections, I can do whatever my heart is feeling to do at that time. To me, that's what jazz is.
So it's a feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Feeling based on chord changes and notes and sounds and all these things that you've learned up to this point. And the great thing about it is, and Will can attest to this, music, you can just keep getting, you're always going to keep improving. The minute that you stop improving is when you should stop doing this. You have to keep improving and improving. And what I play now is so much different than what I played 10 years ago. But you just have to keep learning, and I'll learn until the day I die, just like Will or anybody that plays the instruments.
It sounds like there's depth. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
just keep going deeper.
Is that a good way of putting it?
Absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, number 2.
How has it impacted your life? No.
Oh, we have to do all 5 ourselves?
Yeah, and then you're going to do all 5.
Do we have enough time for that?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
How has it
Lightning
impacted?
round.
Well, I have to clear my
How
throat
has
for
it
this one.
impacted your life?
How has it impacted my life? When I was 18 years old, I was in the first, actually 17 years old, I was in the first all-county jazz band. I played Barry sax, and our featured artist that year, now this would have been 1996, was Dennis de Blasio and George Rabbi. And what was really, really, really something for me is, as a baritone sax player from Governor Mifflin, Dennis de Blasio was God. He used to play with Maynard and arrange a lot of his stuff and be his music director. And I got to scat with him when I was 17 years old. And I didn't know anything.
Doing that at 17, that's young.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything what I was doing at that point, but I was doing what I felt. And that's something that I've always been fortunate to at least be able to play what I felt. And Benny Sims really taught me a lot about that too, is that you have to feel when you play stuff. It's one thing to read it, but when you can feel it, it seems like your heart comes out in it more. So what was the question again? I forget.
How has it impacted your life?
That's one of the things. So just to go full circle, when I was 17, now I'm 38 years old, being able to play it all these years has just allowed me to, no matter what hardships I was going through, and Lord knows I've had a lot of hardships the last 5 years, no matter what I was going through, I would be able to play music and go to the music and let that encompass me, and just close my eyes and know that I can get my feelings out but make other people happy as well.
So it's been an outlet for
It has. Yeah, and it's been a good financial outlet too.
that.
That helps
always
too.
the
It's so
bonus,
beautiful.
right?
I mean, I have an accounting degree,
can
but it's
make your
beautiful
living doing that,
to make
yes.
a living playing music. Yeah.
Who are your jazz mentors?
Definitely Frank Sinatra. Now I have sort of a vocal.
That's interesting. I didn't expect Frank Sinatra to come
Oh,
out.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I'm a vocalist and a sax player, So Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Hank Crawford, who was Ray Charles' sax player, Kenny Rankin, who was one of the great jazz vocalists of all time, and these guys we just lost way too soon. Charlie Parker, Coltrane. David Sanborn. I love David Sanborn's sound. Eric Marienthal, who plays here often. All these guys that you just take a little bit of each of what they play and you try and do your best to emulate what they do, and that's how you become your own player/singer.
Speaking of your own player/singer, what is your jazz legacy?
I have no idea yet. I'm only 38.
What do you think it is?
I'm hoping.
You're working on it.
I'm working on it, and I'm hoping to go national with this CD that I'm doing. I have
The Great American Songbook CD?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a publicist, Lee Cawalla. Say that 2 times.
Lee Cawalla. Just saying.
My publicist, she's actually going all over the country. She was in Vegas for me, and this is also with Uptown, so it's not just that it's, I'm always, I think about the team, but I've assembled a team of my publicist, Benny, producing me, Dave arranging me. She's been to Vegas. She's going to all these open calls. She's actually meeting with CBS this week.
Nice.
So we're hoping that things are going to keep, going. She's talking to ABC, Disney. So I guess in a way I'm trying to be like sort of the next Michael Bublé, but
Nice.
but I play sax too, so it's sort of my own unique thing where I'll sing and play. So we'll see. I mean, at 38 years old, it's hard to say what my legacy is. Locally, I would like to think that my legacy so far is that I tried to make people happy and tried to teach as many kids as I can. My 2 students right now are at District Band and both got #1 for tenor sax and alto sax for District 10.
There's
So
a legacy.
That's a legacy.
Paying it forward
That
and
makes me feel
passing on the
good.
music.
Yeah.
And finally, and this is a hard one, and so I'm not going to ask your favorite, but what is one of the highlights of Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest that sticks with you in your experience?
That's easy for me as an artist to see, seeing Kenny Rankin, seeing George Benson, obviously being in the first all-county jazz band. But now Mr. John Ernesto has hooked us up with a lot of different shows that we've done. Obviously when Uptown started 12 years ago, that was a big memory. But the biggest memory for me is being able to jam with a lot of these guys at the Midnight Jam session with Gerald
Midnight
Beasley.
Jam. Yeah.
And it's neat to be on radio stations with all these guys and then show up and every once in a while they say, oh yeah, I've heard of you because my song 222
That has to
South
feel
Chart.
good, huh?
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
So that's there's a lot of favorite things.
There's the 5. You ready? Are you ready?
Sure.
Will?
I'm
Now you
sure.
know them in advance. Okay.
Hey, think about it.
So, what does jazz music mean to you, Will Rapp?
To me, as a conductor, jazz music means, I'm going to use one word, listening. Whereas in the classical realm, it's more about reading. So we've got classical musicians who are great readers and can follow the stick and the tempos and all that. But when we get into the jazz realm, our orchestral musicians have to be able to listen. They have to know where these chord changes are. If we're in a live show and we say in rehearsal, well, we're going to do 4 choruses of solos, but all of a sudden there's only 3 choruses and they go ahead, it's my finger to the ear saying, listen, and we're here. And so musicians have to be aware of that. So to me, it's a great listening form, and that does not diminish the superb technique that jazz artists have because they've developed that technique in their own right. And as Erich says, that practice room becomes their performance space. Then
So you're speaking to that feeling as well.
Oh, it
you
is.
can't just read the notes.
It's a great
you
feeling.
Feel
There's
it.
a lot of interpretation.
How about jazz
area.
music? How has it impacted your life?
Well, for me, as a young jazz drummer in high school, being told I had been selected to play in the Mid-East Stage Band. Now, they don't have this anymore, but it used to be an instrumental music conference that was hosted by Duquesne University. And yes, you and your drum set will have to get on the Trailways bus and go all the way to Pittsburgh and figure out how to get your thing in the hotel and set up and all that. And it was Ray DeFade at that time, who was at the Berkeley School of Music, and he was our guest conductor. And what a great impact to all of a sudden be everybody around me I felt was so much better than I was, and I just had to somehow come up to that level. That was my first real taste of, you got to be able to hang with the people that, that are in the room with you. So I've always had a great interest in that, although most of my playing has been in the classical vein. I was really trained as a classical percussionist. I had a great timpani and classical percussion teacher, Fred Hinger, who was a timpanist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, went on to be the timpanist of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. But in the back of my mind, I was always grooming myself to be an educator, a teacher. So I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to teach, I have the opportunity to conduct, and every now and then the opportunity to play.
I like the wisdom that you shared, that you need to surround yourself with people better than you, because that is how you grow.
Work with the best.
And get
Work
better,
with the best.
right?
Yeah. The books you read and the people you meet.
Right.
It's so much about that.
Good advice for whatever you're doing. How about your mentors, jazz mentors? Who are they?
Jazz mentors. I think for me, just studying artists like Cole Porter, artists like Duke Ellington, just to learn more about their thought process, their compositional process, how things worked, just the beauty of their tunes and whatnot. And then even to this current day, we had the New York Voices, a quartet of very talented singers, work with the Pops. And shortly after that, Lauren Kinnan, one of their vocalists, released a solo album, and she made a songbook available, which I gobbled up immediately to just check these beautiful chord progressions out, her creative spirit, and not only crafting the music, but the lyrics. And I actually have my jazz vibe students read those pieces and learn those pieces, even though they say, well, it's a vocal tune. That's fine. You can learn from everyone.
Progressions there.
Yeah. So constantly trying to learn.
I hear that from both of you.
Oh, yes.
You know, it never stops.
Every new score for me is an opportunity to learn.
How about your legacy? What would you like that to be, or what are you hoping to leave for others in jazz?
Well, I always said to people as I was growing up and working with these great mentor conductors or performers that if I could ever get to be half the people they were, I would give it all back and again try to pay that forward to the next generation of young students. So I feel good about the students that I've been able to teach. I feel great that GIA Publishing, who's had a very successful series of books called Teaching Music Through Performance in Band, or in Orchestra, or in Choir, and finally a series Teaching Music Through Performance in Jazz Ensemble. And I was invited to be the principal author of the chapter on the rhythm section. And I got some great colleagues together to get their specialized input, and it was published last year by GIA Publishing. So I think finally, when you have some things to say and you can get it in a book, then that does become your legacy. So I have to stand by what I said now.
And I know that you will. And finally, and it is the tough one, but Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest, 28 years, you've been involved for so many of those. What is a favorite highlight that you have?
And there have been so many over the years, but in recent history, I think just coming to the Performing Arts Center on the opening night when Wynton Marsalis and the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra was there, it was I didn't have any responsibility. I could just go and be an audience member and soak it all in. And it was just, I've heard them in New York, but it was so special to hear them here in Reading.
So
in a room that I've performed in. Yes.
That was your favorite moment.
Absolutely. And again, that's all taking it in, because I had so many great moments with all of the collaborations we've had with all of the artists. And the Pops have been fortunate to be able to have done some firsts. And once again, in collaborating with Erich and these great new arrangements by Dave De Palma, we're just excited to play some new ink, as we say, new ink to us.
You know, the opportunities, they go on, and I hear from both of you, practice and study and endeavor to be better, and the desire to pass it on and help others. And then we get to be the audience and consume and reap the rewards, the fruits of all of that labor. So thank you both very much for what you do, for sharing it with us, and for being my guest here on the Backstage Pass.
Our pleasure. Thank you.